Well, Bret Hart was supposed to lose to Shawn Michaels, I think WrestleMania, whatever the hell it was, 16 or 17, I don't know, where all the fans were yelling, Bret screwed Bret. Bret told Vince McMahon, I'm not losing to Shawn Michaels in Canada. And they went out there, and Shawn Michaels pulled a fast one on Bret Hart and held him down and pinned him, and Bret couldn't do anything about it. And the so-called excellence of execution that was supposed to be the greatest wrestler of all, little teeny Shawn Michaels held him down and embarrassed him. So Bret Hart was being a horse's ass.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch!
Frustrated into the goddamn word for it! This is bullshit!
They're shaking hands! Don't call us shaking hands! We're saving themselves!
I now own WCW.
Calling all faces and heels, it's your resident tweeners once again, taking a look at a special edition of the Tweener Wrestling Podcast. As usual, it is I, your co-host Peter, with my co-host Garrett.
How's it going, everybody?
We touched upon the Montreal Screwjob last episode. Was that episode 7, Garrett?
That was episode 7.
And I think the Screwjob is, one of the most famous wrestling moments of all time, and
if not the most.
Probably deserves a little more of a retrospective. So
yeah,
we'll do a short one today just to kind of look at things and touch down why this event is so important. And we're also going to look at Hitman Hart Wrestling with Shadows, one of the most famous wrestling documentaries of all time.
Great. I liked it a lot.
There's probably not a lot of famous wrestling documentaries out there, but still,
yeah,
it's amazing. It's a fantastic piece of work, and we'll break it all down just to kind of tide people over until episode 8.
Yep.
So, Garrett, do you want to break down November 9th, 1997, and tell us why it's the most famous wrestling moment of all time, if it's the most famous wrestling moment of all time?
Oh, like you want to break down what actually happened?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I think
because we have people here who actually don't watch wrestling.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about that is it was all a build-up. Like, I think the 9th is really just where it came to a head and kind of all went the way of the atomic bomb. Leading up to it, Bret signs his big contract with Vince and kind of says a nice big, "I'm loyal to Vince," which I mean is really dumb.
Which we covered in episode 2.
Yeah, which is episode 2. But he signed his contract. Basically, Vince comes to Bret shortly before. I think is it October, Peter?
September 22nd.
September 22nd, just before October.
Madison Square Garden show.
And basically, he comes to Bret and says, "I can't honor the contract. I can't offer the amount of money that I said I was going to pay you. We're financially tight right now. So." I'm not going to be able to pay you, but you do what you want to do. Like, if you want to walk to WCW for more money, whatever, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So then Bret thought that the whole WCW thing was over, and then they called him, and they're like, "What's it going to take to get you here?" So that was my Ted Turner. Ted Turner sucks.
Ted Turner didn't call him. Eric Bischoff.
I know, Bischoff called him.
I mean, the current WWE documentaries...
You're fired! Oh,
the current WWE documentaries would have Ted Turner calling him.
Yeah. The Monday Night War.
And saying, Bret, this is Ted Turner.
I
want to put
from
Vince
WCW.
McMahon out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's in the entertainment business and I'm in the wrestling business.
God damn it. But basically what ended up happening is Bret was talking to them about it. He told Vince that he was going to jump over to WCW, but he asked for somewhat reasonable creative control over his last 30 days with the WWF.
Which he had when he signed
the contract anyway, is he'd have creative control as to how he'd leave. Mm. Blah, blah, blah. So what ended up happening is he got in this big... Well, this feud's been going on for 2 fucking years now?
Yes. WrestleMania 12.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I guess it's been 12 years.
We missed the match at King of the Ring 1997.
Oh, for fuck's sake, yeah. So, basically, Bret Hart is feuding with Shawn Michaels, who, the beginning of November at this time, has just started, like, the DX stable. So him and Hunter Hearst Helmsley are running all over the place. To quote Jim Cornette, just basically jacking off on live TV, which is a great, great line. But they're basically jacking off on live TV. Bret is sort of like the heel, I guess. They're kind of in between.
Exactly, they're tweeners.
They're both tweeners because like half the crowd is one way and half the crowd's the other way. But then we get here and basically like just before the show, like I think a couple days before or something, basically Vince calls Bret and says, "You have to drop the belt to Shawn at Survivor Series because I don't want you going on WCW Nitro with our belt." And basically Bret being, like, arguably one of the most honorable dudes I've ever heard of, based on how I've seen some of these things and, you know, not being bitter and seeing through the lies that WWF was afterwards. He says, "I would never do that, but I'd rather blow my own brains out than drop the title to Shawn Michaels. I will not drop it in Canada." So they have a meeting. This is over the phone. So then they have a meeting. And basically, that's actually part of a really good part of Wrestling with Shadows I liked that we'll talk about when he wears a wire into his office. But basically, he says, like, why don't we just have, like, a schmoz finish or, like, a no contest because, you know, somebody starts like, DX and the Hart Foundation pour into the ring and it just ends in a no contest. And then the next night on Raw, I'll drop the belt, you know, go out with my head held high, whatever. Vince says, "Sure, whatever you want." So that's what Bret goes with, is there's supposed to be this fucking run-in, and it's supposed to be a schmoz, and that's what's supposed to happen. Basically, it gets even worse because the senior official referee, Earl Hebner, basically tells Bret Hart that he's going to be out there to make sure that nothing goes wrong, and swears on his kids that nothing will happen.
He does that a lot, actually.
Does that a lot. It's like, what a shitlord.
I don't even have kids.
Like, yeah. So basically, he swears on his kids that he's going to make sure everything's straight down the middle and there's no like bullshit shenanigans going on. During the course of the match, Vince, like they interview Vince pre-match, he's noticeably fucking nervous. He comes out midway through the match. Just as the two superstars get back in the ring, they're doing their thing. Shawn Michaels puts like Bret Hart into a sharpshooter, and obviously the crowd is just like, this isn't gonna, he's not gonna tap out to this, whatever. Vince like signals Hebner, who immediately calls for the bell and just gets the fuck out of Dodge. Bret never tapped, or gave up, or passed out, or any of that stuff.
Brock Lesnar style.
And what Jesus Christ, what ended up happening is when the bell rang, Bret, like I'm fairly certain Bret just like fully overpowered Michaels and kicked out of his own hole, like throws him to the other side of the ring, and he just kind of lays there like dumbfounded for a minute, and then he's like laying there and sees Vince at ringside, and he basically just gets up and hawks like the biggest fucking loogie I've ever seen onto Vince's face, like right in his eye. And all over his face.
Bret's a pretty smart guy. You see it in his face, how quickly
he knows how quickly he realizes that Vince has screwed him.
Yeah.
So basically what ends up happening is like Shawn Michaels is feigning being like, why would you do this? I didn't want it to be this way and all this stuff. And then Vince basically is just like, get the fuck to the back because like people in the crowd are starting to realize what happened.
Yeah.
And they're fucking pissed because it's Montreal.
Yep.
So they're fucking pissed. Like Owen comes out. Right? Owen comes out, does he not?
After the cameras are gone.
After the cameras are gone, Owen comes out and he's just like, look, it's not your fault. You have nothing to be ashamed of. It's basically WWF's fault and Vince's mostly.
Yeah.
Bret goes apeshit and starts like destroying monitors and WWF technology, like fucking video monitors, cameras, tables. He just goes apeshit. And then he heads to the back, like after like security comes out, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So he goes to the back, and then it's a really interesting exchange between him and Shawn Michaels because Michaels Michaels denies having knowledge of at all of anything. He's like, I swear on my life, I didn't know what was going on. I don't want any part of this. Like, that's not the right way. Like, that shouldn't have been done. And then basically it ends with it goes with Brett goes to go to Vince's office, and it's really great in the DVD when he's just like, that piece of shit's locked himself in his office, and he walks away, and he's in this dressing room when Vince comes down, and basically he's like, maybe you should get the cameras out of here. So the cameras fuck off. But what ends up happening is he just fucking cold cock decks Vince in the face.
Should have kept the cameras in there.
Yeah. Basically, they go back in. They go back in after, and Brett's like, I don't know, Vince fell into my hand, and then like he's like, no, I punched him as hard as I could. He's like, you knocked out Vince McMahon with one punch? Like the cameraman is like incredulous. Like, but yeah, like that's the gist of it. Is Brett was expecting to go into Montreal, remain champion, and then drop the belt the very next night, and then he would go on to do his WCW career. But what ended up happening is that basically Vince McMahon said, we can't have this happen. We can't show weakness to WCW. So he screwed over the champion in like an outrageous fucking way that has never been done, I think, since.
No.
Or before. Like that's why I think it's like the most important moment that we'll talk about.
There's pre-Gorgeous George sort of things that, you know, my grandfather might have watched, but the only one I can think of is when Wendy Richter got rolled up by Moolah in the 80s.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That might be the only one that's close, but I mean, that one's fucking. This is like another level.
Yeah, that was an excellent recap, Garrett. Couldn't have done it any better.
I don't know if we can go any more into detail.
No, you did a good job. I'm going to get into detail and see if you know any of this stuff, because I've been combing all the books and.
I know you have, but I haven't been doing any of that.
That's
I don't
okay.
have
That's
any
okay.
of them.
I got it all here. So.
All right.
Let's break it down here. I got a bit of a cough, so I might disappear every now and then. I'll push the cough button so no one has to hear me wheezing away. So, okay, on my birthday, September 22nd, 1997, Vince told Brett. Yes, soon. Vince told Brett he wasn't going to honor his contract and that he should breach his deal. You gotta love Vince McMahon just saying, yeah, I'm not going to honor your contract.
I'm not honoring this deal with you.
If I was Brett, I would have been like, okay, we're going to a courtroom in Calgary and you're going to pay me everything you owe me.
Yeah, well, like,
Thanks,
I think that's the problem. Like, fucking Hart is way too honorable.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, but yeah, if that's anyone, especially an American, no
especially
offense to our
Goldberg or Brock Lesnar.
But like, yeah, like anybody that's like from down there that knows what's going on, like they'd be like, well, that even his fucking wife knows. Like, she's like, a year ago he said he would pay you $20 million, and now he's telling you he's in a financial crisis.
Tough
like
shit.
Something is not right here.
Tough shit. You have to pay.
Yeah, you have to pay me right now. If I was Bret Hart, I wouldn't even fucking care if I drove the business out of business.
Yeah, fuck it.
I just be like, you paid me, you agreed to pay me this, we signed for it, and now you owe me all of that money.
Exactly.
That's how business works, asshole.
Yep, but I guess Bret got a little too involved in, this bullshit and the politics.
Yep.
Most important thing is Vince McMahon, as he says in our episode 8 podcast coming soon.
Yeah.
That the one thing he wanted, he didn't want Bret to leave Montreal as WWE champion, and that's what he got. That's
the one thing he wanted.
So, originally on September 27th with his, which is a very famous Madison Square Garden house show, Raw.
Yep.
He said Bret could leave any way he wanted. He didn't need to drop the belt if he didn't want to. And Bret goes to Shawn, and he's like, I have no problem dropping the belt to you. I'm leaving, blah, 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 blah. And Shawn says, I appreciate that, but I want you to know that I'm not willing to do the same thing for you.
Oh, I know, and that's,
apparently said that in front of Neidhart, and Neidhart laughs and is like, what the fuck? Are you serious? And so Bret's like, okay, fuck it. And, of course, no champion would. Hulk Hogan wouldn't have put up with that shit. Ric Flair wouldn't have put up with that shit. Shawn Michaels wouldn't have put up with that shit.
Shawn Michaels himself would have told whoever said that to him to go fuck themselves.
So, I mean, there's no way a champion could lose to someone like that. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So Bret has creative control over his character, which he put into his contract in 96. And he says, well, whatever, I'll drop it to Austin instead, or Shamrock, or Undertaker, or anyone. Anyone but Shawn. And Vince is like, okay, you don't have to lose it to Shawn at Survivor Series, but, he says you have to lose it at Survivor Series, but you're going to win it back at In Your House DX. And Bret's like, okay, fine, that's stupid, because I'm going to have to lose the belt to Shawn again at some point. My favorite part about the story is Bret tells Vince about what Shawn said, and Vince is like, okay, I'll bring Shawn into the office, we'll sort it all out. So Shawn comes into the office, and Vince goes, Shawn, I'm putting the belt on you. And so Bret's kind of like, what? And
what the fuck?
Shawn starts crying and thanking Bret, and Bret's like, you just said this to me. So Shawn says, oh, sometimes I say the stupidest things. I always put my foot in my mouth.
Wow.
This is all in Bret's autobiography, Hitman Hart. It's excellent. I recommend anyone read it. So October 24th, Vince calls Bret, and he's like, I can actually pay you after all. I'm making lots of money. But at that point, Bischoff has already contacted Bret and offered $2.5 for 125 days a year.
Which is, like, fucking ridiculous.
It's $300,000 less than he was offered a year before, so Vince is already hurting him financially.
Yep.
Bret has to make a decision, and, he doesn't want to go to WCW. He wants to stay in the WWE, so he calls Vince, but Vince is ducking him all day. And he finally contacts him almost about a couple hours just before the contract to WCW is going to expire. So he asks Vince about his direction, and Vince says, okay, you're going to lose to Shawn at Survivor Series, you're going to lose to him at In Your House DX, you're going to lose to him at a ladder match at the Royal Rumble, and then you're going to say, okay, if I can't beat him on Raw, I'm going to leave forever, and then you're going to beat him on Raw. And Vince is like, what? Or Bret's like, what? Why would I stay? This is ridiculous. Like, you've taken all my heat by
You're taking all the heat away.
Shawn the number one heel, and I'm just this kind of nothing heel who hates Canada or hates America. So Vince says, think with your head, not your heart. Take the WCW offer. And then the next morning, Vince told Bret after Bret had signed the contract that he did the right thing, but he still needed to put Shawn over. Bret said he wasn't going to do it. He'd drop it to Austin or Taker, or even the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah.
He could have easily dropped it to Taker, I've noted. That it would have been, if he had lost to Taker, Taker could have lost to Shawn Michaels at Royal Rumble or DX. It all fits with the current timeline that we have, so it would have been fine. Bret says if Shawn puts him over at any point before the pay-per-view, or at any point after, he'll return the favor. He says, if you beat me in Montreal, what did he say? He said, if I beat Shawn in Montreal, I'll lose to him the next night in Ottawa. It wasn't even a Canada thing. It was just, Shawn has to do the favor before I do the favor.
Yep.
Simple as that. On Shawn's side...
God.
Shawn's is hilarious because it's clearly written by a ghostwriter, and it's outrageous some of the things he'll say.
Fucking guy.
Shawn, and rightly so, thought he was a white hot heel, and he knew Austin was going to take the title off of the heel at WrestleMania, and he felt like he should have been the number one heel.
Yep. At
this point, I kind of agree with him. But that's just basically because Shawn and Triple H are on the booking committee and get to book themselves quite well, as we've seen in Episode 7, as we'll see in Episode 8. Vince said he was helping Bret get a better deal in WCW. He wasn't. Vince told Shawn that Bret didn't want to lose the title at all, and it wasn't about Shawn. And so Shawn suggested the idea of a swerve to Vince. He basically said, I will do whatever you want me to do. He was the first one to say it. Triple H also comes up with the idea of saying, no, this is bullshit. Bret's not doing the right business.
God.
However, Vince told Shawn that he didn't want anyone to think Shawn was in on it. Here's an interesting thing, Garrett. I didn't think Shawn was in on it when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah?
No. I think a confidential in 2003 or 2002 is the first time he publicly says he was in on it. But I always thought he wasn't in on it.
Did you was that because, did you watch the pay-per-view yourself?
No, I wasn't current, but I early internet, I knew enough of it.
Yeah.
I'd seen the video.
But I mean, when you watched it, is it because you saw his reaction?
He reacts very well to it.
Very well, thinking that he wasn't in on it at all.
Yeah, you could see Briscoe and Vince telling him to do stuff. The last image is someone telling him to lift the title as he leaves.
Yeah.
So they did a good job of that.
see, for me, I didn't think he was in on it up until the episode of Raw, I think, 3 weeks later, when Shawn basically said, like, I've contacted Bret Hart without the media knowing, without the dirt sheets knowing, without all this happening. And then basically the midget Bret Hart comes out. And I knew right off the bat, even when I was a kid, when he said, I've contacted Bret Hart without the knowledge of anyone, including Vince, I was like, there's no way. I was like, it's not going to be Bret. He had to be in on it because, like he said in that interview before it happened, he's like, I was in on everything. I take full responsibility for what happened in Montreal. And I was like, well, there you have it. Like,
yeah. I mean, I never saw that Raw, and watching it for episode 8, she popped there. You can tell that he's admitting it there.
Oh yeah, he's like, I take full responsibility for everything.
Yep.
And that the thing about that pisses me off most about that is he said that when he knew that he was untouchable.
Yep.
Bret Hart was already gone.
Yep.
He was never coming back. He knew there was no way he would pay for his repercussions or his actions because nobody in the Hart Foundation could do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, Neidhart tries and is an idiot. So
but
they're running the show at that point.
Even shoot-wise, there was no reason why, and we'll get into it, there was no reason why he couldn't have said to Bret in the locker room, yeah, I fucked you over, but you deserved it.
Yeah. He would never have done that, though, because he's a fucking coward.
Because 20 years later, when he's in the ring with Bret, and he's a born-again Christian, all that sort of shit, he's happy to tell him, and I'm sure he believes it in his mind that he did it, and that it was the right thing to do.
Yep. But I mean, like, there's two different Shawn Michaels. There's the one in '97 that literally took no responsibility for his own actions, and that was an absolute coward.
Yep.
And then there's the other one that goes back and atones for what he did in the past.
Born again Christian HBK, greatest gimmick of all time.
Oh, it's great.
So apparently Vince,
blessed in the world via CM Punk.
My favorite Vince revisionist storyline that's going on here. Vince says to Shawn that he's going to let Bret hit him. Yeah. And Bret apparently came up with the sharpshooter spot, and he suggested Shawn mess with the Canadian flag beforehand.
Oh, it was Vince.
No, well, yeah. Well, it was Bret saying, you should do the sharpshooter spot to me, and he said, you should fuck the Canadian flag or something.
Wow, that's really surprising.
Just before we start the documentary, let's just talk about the Screwjob.
Yep.
Night before the pay-per-view, Bret asked Earl to make sure he didn't fuck him over. He just approached him in the shower room. And Earl said, with his tears in his eyes, he said, I swear on my kids' heads he wouldn't do it, that he'd quit first. Bret says, all you have to do is tell me. You don't have to fuck me. You don't have to do anything in the ring. Just come up to me, and if there's a plan, tell me.
Yep.
Which Earl Hebner could have easily come to him and said, they're going to fuck you, and then Bret could have beat the shit out of Shawn. It would have been a great match.
Yep.
The plan is there's going to be a schmoz. Bret will forfeit the title the next night on Raw. I don't know why he didn't just lose the title on Raw. Vader and Rick Rude warned that Bret should watch out. During the sharpshooter spot, Vince yells, ring the fucking bell. Earl books it out of the ring to Jack Lanza and Dave Hebner in a running car. Bret lobs a beautiful spit loogie in Vince's face.
The greatest spit loogie that has ever been spit.
He's pretty good at those. That's what
it's
he
just,
saw.
Yeah, that one and a la SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I dislike the SummerSlam one because he goes, fuck you, right before he does it. It's great.
What's that, episode 6?
Yeah, that was episode 6.
They cut his microphone and he paints WCW in the air and smashes monitors, which, in hindsight, is a terrible idea.
Well, yes, but
it just
at the
gave
time,
the WWE shit to kind of air and made him look bad.
Yep.
So let's start with Hitman Wrestling with Shadows.
Yeah.
The DVD starts with, I guess we can say the movie, the film. The film starts with Bret the night before Montreal. Bret talks about the Hitman character and says that he'd rather blow his character's brains out if he was going to lose to Shawn.
Mm-hmm. Talks about loving being a hero, like his character being a hero to everyone.
Yep.
And being a person that everybody can believe in.
Yeah, he talks about the Hitman character and what he believes the Hitman character was and perhaps was before 1997.
Yep.
And they really use a nice, effective use of the Bret Screwed Bret speech, the famous Vince McMahon speech the couple days after the Screwjob.
Yeah, that's a really good cut there.
While Bret is agonizing his decision in the hotel room in Ottawa just before the Screwjob.
Yep.
So we cut to 1 year earlier, which we can tell is actually 6 months beforehand.
Yeah, because it's the Stampede in Calgary.
Yeah.
And it's right before it's actually right before Canadian Stampede. Like, it's the week of.
Yeah, yeah. So we see Brett hanging out in the Calgary autograph signing, which apparently, if you remember, that autograph signing was like a mile long or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like a ludicrous amount of time to get an autograph from him.
Yeah, episode 5, you can go back to that. We've got a lot of references tonight.
Yeah, we're plugging ourselves really, really well. There's this really weird part where Brett tells the camera about this dream he keeps having.
Yeah.
He's like, I keep having this dream about being naked in the ring. Like, hearing my music hit for the second time, but I'm naked. And he's like, come on, you dumbass, get ready. You're going to be late. But, I don't understand the context of why that was said to the camera at all.
I don't know. Maybe they're trying to make it seem like he's naked at the end of the screw job, but he's...
Maybe.
He's
been stripped of his dignity.
Something there. We could have tied
He's
it
been
all
raped.
together. He's been raped by Goldust.
Of his
dignity.
God damn it.
So, jump on me if you get lost here, because we don't really have any points. Los Pericos are there.
I've got it laid out in order, so we're good.
Okay, me too. And Brett is just kind of, he's introducing all the characters of the show, and
he says his son acts and looks like his wife, which is a very bad combination.
Personality of a rattlesnake, he said.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
His wife is apparently a huge bitch.
That's what I've heard.
But apparently that's because he was fucking everyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in his book, read his book, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll loan you my copy. He just fucks everyone. He has sex with someone every chapter.
Was Sonny
one of...
No,
he doesn't say anything about Sonny.
What the hell? Yeah. No wonder, because, in this, he says, Sonny's very flirtatious, but that's about it. We're very good friends. And I'm like, you had sex with her, didn't you?
Yeah, so while he's showing all the characters, there's literally it's Vince Russo moment, because we see Russo walk onto screen.
Yeah, fucking die. And then I like here when he's there's a lot of, he's just talking with people, and then some guy comes on screen talking about the WWF, and he basically just says it's a breakaway from the real world because it's sports entertainment. And I'm like, yes, that guy got it right. One man got it right.
Interesting thing about the Sunny segment, I kind of wrote that down, where she says we're just friends, or he says we're just friends, but you see her rubbing her hands on him.
On his chest.
And there's a zoom in. There's
a really big zoom in there, and he's like, no, we're just friends.
Wink, wink.
Sure you
But he
are.
doesn't say anything in the book. That was the only thing that I'm...
Yep. I actually really like the section here where it goes to Vader and how he says he's a business. He's
a real estate agent.
He's developing a shopping center when this is happening in '98. So, what the fuck is he still doing in the WWF?
Clearly,
he's probably making more money with those 2 jobs than anyone.
You know that Big Show storyline where he bought a strip mall and it went out of business?
Yeah.
And he has to work for the Authority? That's where they got the idea from Vader.
Oh my god!
No, I'm just assuming.
That's amazing if it was. Why are we not writers? We should have used that.
Yeah, soon enough.
Hitman stands for sticking up for yourself and to never quit. He will never lie to his fans. Yeah. Which I guess is true.
No, and even the Hitman character, I feel I agree with that, because the continuity is always pretty accurate. Even the heel Hitman, he still loved his fans.
Yep.
And even the American ones, he still supported them, even if the rest.
Oh yeah.
Huh. So we jump to the Harts at their family home.
The Hart home,
which is just a real shithole.
It's not even nice.
It's a real shit
I
show.
thought it'd be okay, and it's just not.
Apparently, it's just covered in cat piss.
Apparently, Brett spent his whole career trying to prove himself to Vince, but deep down, he was trying to prove himself to his father, because his father is a badass. I'm going on record as saying.
Yeah.
They had 8 boys and 4 girls, and all who were either wrestlers or married wrestlers. I found that really ironic, because Helen's like, I hated it. When are you getting out of this? And he's like, soon. And then, all of them are somehow involved in wrestling.
Helen Hart, we're still in this business.
R.I.P. Helen.
Yeah. R.I.P. all of them. They're all...
Yeah, most of them are dead.
Yeah.
Stu and his sister ended up in a foster home after his dad went to jail for, a property disagreement.
With Vader.
Yeah, but Stu, yeah. But Stu discovered shoot wrestling in the orphanage with like
Such
bullies
a
and shit,
ridiculous story.
right?
There's a
And
shooting
he's like,
gang
he was
in
good
the
at it, and he
orphanage.
never gave up. Yeah, and he's like, he wanted to be a bully. I do like how him and the story about how him and his father came up with the sharpshooter. But now like everyone has used it.
Yeah,
Who is the next person to use it after him?
The Rock.
Like
Or
The Rock, right? Yeah, The Rock first.
major ones are Sting, The Rock, Natalia, obviously.
Yeah.
Who else? Chris Benoit. He used it occasionally.
Occasionally, but he was more of a crossface guy.
So maybe those three. The Rock did a horrible, horrible sharpshooter.
Yeah. I put down here, so Brett is the anti-Ahmed Johnson. He's never hurt anyone in his 20-year career.
Ahmed had to retire. Ahmed was fired because he was injuring
Because
too
he
many
was injuring
people.
too many wrestlers. We discussed that in episode 7. I looked it up. It's like he was let go because he was injuring too many wrestlers.
Greatest Wikipedia article of all
And then,
time. I want the source for that.
And then the WCW let him go because he had a weight problem after that. What a fucking downhill spiral he was on.
He
My
has,
head's out! Like, that's just all he did.
he has his own like pro wrestling tees story. You ever go to pro wrestling tees?
No.
Like all the wrestlers have their own shops, right? So Mick
Yeah.
Foley has a store, Austin has a store, and they got cool stuff. I always want to buy some stuff. Like CM Punk stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
But Ahmed Johnson has one, and it's like the weirdest fucking shit. Like
Sweet Jesus.
it's lion branded and all this sort of stuff.
Weird.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about this is just like how the whole family are just like a bunch of fucking hicks.
Oh yeah.
Like his sister's talking, and I'm like, where are you? What? I'm not even sure that's a Canadian accent. And then it was great about like how they just had like they were like camera on the living room, and then you could just hear like this guy screaming from a submission hold downstairs.
Oh yeah. Owen made the recording of like the dungeon downstairs.
The
where
dungeon
people are getting
downstairs,
stretched.
yeah. And it's just like this guy screaming in pain with like country western music playing.
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
Something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something.
And then like two guys show up and they're like, "Are you to put us through some holds, Stu? Is this the dungeon?" And he's like all jokey about it. And Stu like puts him in all these crazy holds. Stu's a fucking savage.
Yeah, I was really hoping one of those like amateur guys would become like Brock Lesnar or someone of
Yeah.
the next generation. But
Should have been like fucking like Chris Benoit. at the
yeah.
time. But then that
Jericho.
obviously would have been cut out. Jericho?
Did you ever hear Jericho's podcast? He talked to Natalia and Tyson Kidd once, and he went to see the Hart family dungeon or the house before it got torn down or whatever.
Yeah.
And apparently he went there and the door was wide open, and he knew the Harts, so he walked in and he's just kind of wandering around and no one's in the house. No one's in the Hart house.
What the hell?
So he's looking around, and he's like, okay, maybe they're all in the basement. I'll go check out the dungeon. So he goes in the dungeon, he's looking around there, and then he hears someone, like, stomping around really heavily upstairs, and he's like, oh, fuck. And they're coming towards the basement door, and he's all scared, and he's like, oh, fuck. I'm in, like, Leatherface is coming to get me or something.
Yeah.
And the door opens, and I forgot if it's, like, I think it's Dean Hart or Smith Hart, one of them's dead. And they see Jericho, and they just throw, like, a bedspread at his feet, and they're like, cat pissed on that. And they just walk off, leaving him standing at the foot of the stairs. They're like, okay, that Jericho's just wandering around the house.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, Stu stretches those young wrestlers, and they just scream, and he's like, you got this vein in your head,
He's so fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it works. They're all purple and screaming, and...
Yep.
Who's it? Bruce Hart is a big douchebag, and apparently during the screening of this show, like at like an IMAX in Calgary or something, he got up and took his kids out, and he's like, I don't approve of the way you're presenting Dad, Brett.
I don't approve that you're showing him in the real light that he was in.
Apparently Stu really liked the documentary, so Bruce
Yes,
Hart
Stu
is
did
an
like
idiot.
it. And then we go on to like the choice that Brett has to make. Brett was really conflicted about whether or not he wanted to jump to WCW. He said a lot of the time it's more than just the money.
Episode 2.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that he felt like McMahon was a father figure. There's like a hilarious discussion backstage about how the brawl is going to go down at the Canadian Stampede. They talk about how Austin's going to think that Stu Hart threw the drink at him. So he grabs Stu and he's like, I'll be fine with him just pushing. And he's like, and that makes Stu happy. He was like involved.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh well, fuck this. And you jump in like, hey, fuck you, asshole. Like, motherfucker. I'm like, holy fuck, that's Pat Patterson.
Yeah, I wrote
he's
that.
He's just a goddamn sailor in
So
there.
explicit,
Fuck
yeah.
this, fuck that, fuck you, fuck this. Like there's a part here. I was like, this is such a cool breakdown. He's like, you want to go at it right away? Or he's like, no, let's all give our glasses away. And then all you hear is Pat like, yeah. And then you just jump in the fucking ring and go at it. Like, what the hell? Like Pat Patterson.
Total Canadian. That's a Canadian thing to do.
Yeah. It really is. It's such a hick Canadian thing to do.
No, but you can hear us. We swear all the time.
For those of you that don't know, we do love our swearing.
Canadians love swearing.
It's great.
Especially rural Canadians.
Yeah, people that didn't grow up in a city.
Yeah.
It's all we do.
Yeah.
I found it really interesting that he used to worry about screwing up and hurting someone, and now he's just worried about getting hurt and not, or he wasn't worried about getting hurt. He was just worried about screwing up. But now it's the opposite. Like, now he just worries about getting hurt and doesn't worry about screwing up at all.
He was worried that he'd get fired for injuring too many people, Ahmed Johnson style.
He's the original Ahmed.
That someone would one day write in his Wikipedia article one sentence.
He got injured for he
got fired for injuring too many people.
Yeah. It's kind of insane that he knows that people in the crowd don't think it's real when he breaks his goddamn sternum on the fucking barricade. If he left for WCW, he was worried about what would happen with his character, but he knew he could always be a hero in the WWF if he stayed.
Rightfully so.
He was wondering what would happen if he went to WCW, like what they do with him and his character.
They have absolutely no idea what to do with him when he gets there.
Yeah, I love these breakdowns of the characters they have, giving little interviews. Like he's talking to Mick Foley, Triple H, and
Goldust.
Goldust
does this really weird
gay thing. I like how it shows him outside at the Stampede. What the fuck is he doing there?
Yeah.
And then he's also now he's confused that Austin is a heel and he's getting cheered. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really understand why this is happening. He's kind of confused by the whole thing.
I think Brett, I feel like if Brett had just done the character he was kind of doing without the whininess, he would have been fine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because the style he wrestled at WrestleMania 13 and that sort of edgy, violent streak to him is all that really he needed. He just didn't need Austin to take him out with a chair all the time, you know?
Yep. We go to SummerSlam, so backstage at SummerSlam. People seem to be sick of the good guys, which is interesting. It's oh hey, the Bret Hart heel turn. He basically shows a flashback to WrestleMania when there was the double turn. Mm-hmm. He turned into a heel and Austin was a face. It was interesting to hear the flip side about being a heel. He really hates how people think that, he's a phony and stuff, and he kind of tapped into that when he was a heel. So he was from now on, the American wrestling fans can kiss my ass.
I like it when he's I actually don't think that if you were going to give the United States an enema, you'd stick the hose in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't actually think that. It was probably rude, and I shouldn't have said it at the time. Yeah. I really laughed at this fan about 50 minutes into the movie by saying she loves Brett and she's a better person because she watched him on wrestling. She's like, I went to be a job, go back to school as a computer technician and stuff. He's my hero. I was like, this could be used in every John Cena thing recently ever.
Oh, yeah,
totally. Never give up and follow your dreams.
John Cena made me want to become a dental hygienist.
Yeah, weird shit like that.
Yeah.
Interesting here to see Brett fearing that Shawn at SummerSlam is going to steal all his heat. He asked Pat Patterson before. He's like, he's not going to scoop my heat, is he? You know what I mean? Which is basically what fucking happens.
But he does.
That Undertaker's chair shot is still so goddamn vicious.
It's brutal.
Really good Shawshank Redemption reference, though, when he's in the weight room. He's like, I feel like I'm an inmate on death row where I might have the warden in my pocket and the respect of everybody, but I just can't wait to get out of here and like stop wrestling and be a family man.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, I don't know if I can ever live without it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like live within the system, which is a great Shawshank Redemption reference.
Oh, definitely. Once you're out of Shawshank, you're not like you don't really know what to do. You gotta kill yourself.
Yeah. Yep. So Brett's wife just hates everything about his job.
She's a fucking pig.
She sounds a lot like Helen. She's just like, wrestling's stupid. He said he was only going to do it till he's 25, and now it's time for me to be normal and stuff.
She's
and, like,
a big fat pig.
She didn't fucking take into account like Brett's feelings on the matter at all. Just like, no, I'm upset.
No wonder Brett was fucking everything that moved. She's gross.
Brett really hated everything DX. Like, he really didn't like it, even in real life.
Yep.
Brett's wife was fucking so sketched out with Vince when he told her that, like, he's not going to honor his contract. They basically have, like, a conversation. He's talking with his wife, and he's like, well, this is what should we do? And then he basically tells them to shut the camera off for a while, because it's getting, like, really heated and emotional. Brett was in a really bad spot, though. Like, I think he said it best when he's like, I feel like they just sabotaged my entire career. He's like, they told me to be a face, then they wanted me to be a heel, and then when I became a heel, they gave somebody else top heel spot, and I was left with nothing. Yeah. He's like, I basically told the United States wrestling fans to eat shit, and I don't respect them, and now you want me to be a face in front of them again, and that's where I wrestle 95% of my shows. Mm-hmm. He's like, my entire career has been sabotaged in less than a year.
Totally.
Whole breakdown of the Attitude Era is great. Brett saying it's not appropriate for like his kids and stuff. The goddamn MIT tech on like Off the Record with Michael Landsberg saying it's more fun because we're not getting our intelligence insulted as fans.
It's true.
This guy's a fucking mark.
MIT professor.
MIT professor is like on the Off the Record with Michael Landsberg.
I like to think someone from MIT saw him on there and was like, "Oh my god, we can't have a wrestling fan here."
Yeah. Vince tells everyone that Brett has sold out to WCW in an effort to get him more heat, I think. Earl Hebner swore on his kids. I hope they're all dead now.
Nice.
He refuses to lose to Shawn in Montreal, and then he will drop the belt the next night on Raw. Brett didn't even really, like... Wasn't it you that told me that Brett didn't have to go to Survivor Series?
He'd finished his dates.
He didn't have to go to Survivor Series. And when he went to do it anyway, because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then, like, afterwards, like, all these, like, 12-year-old girls being like, Brett speaks the truth, and it's bad for us to watch. Like, you have tickets to Survivor Series. You're, like, 12 years old.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Then we get to Survivor Series. So, a lot of stuff. This, to me, is where it got, like, really difficult and to watch and got, like, really real.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, like, Brett's almost in tears saying, like, they basically just want to, like, rape him in the ring.
Like Goldust.
Yeah, the artist formerly known as Goldust. That's this time.
Hey, spoilers, I haven't gotten there yet.
It's a really difficult thing for me to watch with his wife backstage, like, even though she's, like, a total pig, about, like, saying goodbye to everyone. Like, it's really touching to see how much the wrestlers, like, loved him. They're all playing with his kids and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Sonny, like, just, like, chases his one son around and stuff, and that son's about 10 years too young to really appreciate what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
His kids, like, the worst part for me is when, like, they interview his one son, and there's, like, do you understand, like, why your father has to leave? And his kid's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And it's, like, it's just so awful.
So, did you see Earl Hebner being like, oh, I'm gonna miss Brett?
Yeah, what a shitlord.
Cunt.
Brett even wants to have a smosh or a run-in to drop the belt next night. Looks good. Really tense moments here before the match. No wonder Vince was so nervous. I still believe that Earl just ran out of the ring because he didn't want to get fucking assaulted post-match.
And he deserved it.
Exactly. He deserved it. He blatantly lied to Brett's face like twice.
Yeah. And he didn't need to. He could have just told Brett that there was a screw job.
Yep, Brett wasn't even going to be mad. He wasn't even going to be mad. He would know then that Earl had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Sean's still sounding like he had nothing to do with this. It's worse that Vince even says whatever you want about the ending when he's wearing the wire. Like when he's just like, I don't think I should drop the belt to Shawn tonight. I should keep it and then drop it tomorrow. And Vince is like, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, at that point, Vince was like, I don't care, just go.
Yeah. And at the end, there's like, that piece of shit's locked himself in his office. Shawn, I had no fucking idea. As God is my witness, my hands are clean. You didn't believe in God at this point, Shawn. This is 97.
He's also swearing in front of Brett's fucking kid.
His kids, yeah, like his one son's just right there, yeah. I'm surprised that Brett did say something about that there in the video.
I'm surprised he didn't let his son go outside. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, his wife's a lot smarter than everyone, though. She just tells Triple H that he's a liar, and you can swear to God as much as you want, but one of these days, like, there's gonna be hell to pay. Really? Triple H is the COO, is about to inherit the company, is fucking the boss's daughter, and is making more money than you ever got.
One of these days, you're gonna own the entire company.
Vince McMahon will die, and Triple H will own the company. But one of these days, you'll regret what you did.
You're gonna have a lot of work to do. You're gonna own a lot of money and a lot of the company.
I like this part when he says Vince McMahon like fell into my fist, and then I like afterwards how he says he said punching Vince in the face was still the right thing to do. It was a Stu Hart judgment call.
Yeah. Do you want to get? Sorry, they cut the cameras before the Vince comes into the
before the punch.
Do you want to hear what happened?
Yes.
I'm sure you already know. Okay, so Brett says to Shawn that he'll judge him by what happens on the next night on Raw, which Shawn fucks
Jesus.
Over. Brett says if they can, looks around the room and he says, if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. So Taker goes, "Fuck! I'm gonna bring Vince's ass down here right now," and he runs off to Vince's office.
Jesus Christ!
And so Brett goes ahead and has it. Poor Blade, by the way, has to sit in this like
I know
carnival-esque bullshit. Anyway. So Brett is in the shower, and Vince is like, I want to talk to you. And so Brett says to Vince, or he says to, I think Bulldog's there, he says, if Vince is still in there once I get out of the shower, I will punch him in the face.
Is that what Bulldog says? Or that's what Brett says to Bulldog?
So,
oh my God.
Sergeant Slaughter clears everyone out. He's like, okay, Vince and Brett will just deal with this by themselves with us. All the wrestlers get out. So I think at like that point, Mankind, Austin, whatever are there. They all leave. Owen's about to leave, and Bulldog grabs him and goes, "Don't leave. Remember what happened to Bruiser Brody."
Oh, yeah.
Which is a really cool moment in the book. So we've got Davey.
And for those of you that don't know, what happened, Peter?
Bruiser Brody, and I'm not a big wrestling historian here, but Bruiser Brody was a famous wrestler in the 80s, and he got in an argument with a promoter in Mexico or Puerto Rico or something. I'm probably butchering this. And the promoter stabbed him to death.
Yeah.
In the shower, and then said self-defense, and because it was just the two of them, he got away with it.
He got away with it.
Yeah.
So that's why fucking...
Yes, you don't want Vince McMahon pulling a shank on you.
Yeah. Goddamn.
Okay, so there's Davey, Rick Rude, Owen, Jim, HBK, Undertaker, Shane, Slaughter, and Briscoe still in the room. Brett decides to leave his shirt on, because he's like, I'm going to get one punch. Brett's such a smart guy. He's always thinking of these things. He says, I'm only going to get one shot in, and they're immediately going to grab me by the shirt. So when I run at Vince, he's going to tie me up. So he said, Brett picks up a knee brace, and he's just wearing a towel at this point.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't fucking need this. And then he runs at Vince. Vince actually gets up and goes to tie up with him. And Brett apparently just throws a rocket uppercut. And Vince goes flying into the air, and when he lands on his ankle and breaks it.
Oh my God! Oh, that makes perfect sense as to why he was hobbling
he's
out
limping
of the fucking...
out.
Yeah, he's limping out of the room, and I'm like, man, he must have hit him really hard.
So Vince is apparently lying on the floor in the shape of an X for 40 seconds as everyone stares at him. Brett is like, this will be really good in the documentary. Again, the guy is always thinking. So he picks up the knee brace, and he's just acting like a wild man. He's like, get him the fuck out of here before I kill him.
Oh my God.
Just so that we get to see Vince kind of all fucked up coming out of the dressing room, which is such a great shot.
I love that shot.
Brett, as a class act, shakes Shawn's hand with his broken hand, which he broke by punching Vince in the face. And he thanks him for his match. Shawn is crying like a bitch the entire time.
Yeah, because he knows what the fuck he's about to do later.
Okay. I'm laughing reading Shawn's versions of this.
Oh, God.
Okay, so the DOA come up to Sean, and they say, "We're not afraid of Brett. We're with you." And so they sit with...
What the hell?
So they sit with Sean. Brett comes in, and Sean's like, whatever. Vince walks into the dressing room. Brett immediately punches him in the face. Vince takes a dive, gets up immediately and goes, "I owed you that," to Brett, and walks out.
What the hell?
It's amazing kayfabe there.
I owed you that.
If you see him in the documentary, he's fucking done. Like,
oh, he looks like he just got fucking, like, slapped.
He's on Dream Street. He's
yeah,
just, like, hobbling
he can't
out.
even, like, he's not even looking straight when he comes out of that dressing room.
So Vince actually uses that, like, line, even though it's complete bullshit. And when we see him on Raw for episode 8, that's what he says. Like, "I let Brett hit me in the face.
Yep.
I owed him that."
Yeah.
Even though...
Yeah. And to cap it all off, they end, like, from here they go to, like, a fucking another, like, off the record segment. But I do like what this guy says. He's, like, kind of comparing Bret Hart to Hamlet, where he can be a good person with the best intentions, surrounded by all these people, you know what I mean? He can be surrounded by all these, like, assholes and stuff, but we see the character more, and he just doesn't want to be there.
No, yeah.
And then it ends with Bret Hart being like, Bret Hart came home, he's fine. What they did, they murdered the Hitman Hitman character. So, and then it just goes to, like, this fucking weird credit roll with, like, this song.
By, like, Sarah McLachlan.
Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, him and his father, Stu, like, walking in the backyard.
Yeah, it's
I
heartbreaking.
assume Stu's, like, Old Yeller at that point. Brett's just going to put him down.
Taking him behind the woodshed.
taking him, JR. He's taking him out back to the woodshed. Like, yeah.
Okay, so after that, Brett had a miserable run with WCW.
The only good point being the steel plate incident.
Oh, great.
Shut up. It was a great moment.
Great storyline. Goldberg kicked him in the face, so he got a career-ending concussion.
Yeah, actually, Bill Goldberg is responsible for the
Owen
death.
died in a tragic accident in 1999.
Oh, God.
Brett sustained a career-ending concussion, as we said before, which ultimately led to him to have a massive stroke. Bulldog died. Stu and Helen died. I wrote, Jesus Christ!
The Hart family is literally the Kennedys of the wrestling world.
God.
Everybody dies and everything terrible happens.
Yeah. And then Jim the Anvil Neidhart shows up on Total Divas to smoke crack.
Yeah. And also a couple times to just be like, "I'm really proud of you, honey," right before she goes out to make her speech about Alundra Blaze.
Yeah, when he's not
all right,
smoking crack.
just some final thoughts real quick here.
Of course.
How do you think this situation could have been avoided, Peter? Or could it have been avoided?
Well, let me just jump to... Hold on, I got a couple more stuff. Sorry, I'm off my game tonight. Let's run through just a few people, how people reacted to it.
Oh, yeah.
Undertaker. He called Brett to say that little cunt Sean was in on the whole thing. He told me when I asked him. HBK says in his book that Undertaker came up to him the next day and said everything was cool with them.
If there's one person things are never cool with, it's the guy that's got, like, man, the Undertaker seems like the coolest fucking dude.
Undertaker could do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, but he seems like the coolest guy. Like, he's like, honor first, just don't lie to my face.
And he has a good sense of humor, as we saw at SummerSlam.
Oh, God, that was great. Like, the greatest laugh of all time.
Pedro Morales, Dory Funk Jr., and Harley Race all said Brett was right to punch Vince in the face. They all called him.
Yep.
Bischoff thought him punching Vince was the funniest thing in the world.
Of course, Eric would think that.
Rick Rude actually was the one who called Bischoff to tell him about the screw job. Bischoff has said in his book and in interviews that he didn't want to deal with any WWE issues because Turner was freaking out and he just wanted Brett.
Yeah.
Mick Foley was uber pissed off and quit for a night.
Oh, he didn't go out? Yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
He doesn't show up the next night.
He doesn't show up the next night.
Check out episode 8 for more on that. He returns the next night, and Shawn Michaels says in his book, I guess his job was more important to him than his principles.
What a shitlord.
He's such an asshole in that
What
book.
an asshole.
And this is when he's a born-again Christian, too.
Yeah, well, it's a Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I'm assuming the Ghost Rider is just a dick with the way you're writing things.
Yeah.
Okay, this is in my Attitude Era book that the WWE just recently released, and I have no idea why this is in the book. So you flip through all these pages, these glossy pages about the Screwjob, and then all of a sudden there's a big picture of Kevin Nash.
What?
And it says Kevin Nash on the Screwjob.
What the fuck does he care?
And then it says, was it a work?
Oh God, that's a thing I've been joking about for like the last 4 episodes. Like Montreal was a work, bro.
So Kevin Nash says,
was it a work?
I can't believe this is in that book. It's a WWE produced book.
Oh my God.
Kevin Nash, to this day, I still have to raise a rock eyebrow on it. When I watched it back and they show a clip of Vince after he got socked, disheveled, not knowing Vince at the time, I don't know. If they just had that little bit of taste to work to it. But because I look at it and say, Vince is the kind of guy that if he painted something in his house and ran out of paint and he had to get more, he would take a shower, get a manicure, put on a brand new suit, go buy the paint, come back and switch out to his old clothes. There was no way that Vince would sell anything. Vince didn't sell the neck, the government. Vince no sold the world, and for some reason Vince would let the world see him sell. And I just went, work.
What the hell? Oh, Jesus Christ. Well,
keep
first
in
of all,
mind that selling is all in the documentary, which they didn't want them to release.
Yeah.
Vince had a black eye the next day, but I assume he did that largely for legal reasons.
Yeah.
From what Brett says, he gave him an uppercut, not a fucking haymaker to the eye.
Uppercut seems better anyway, because if Vince went to like try and lock up with him, the best way to do it is just come right under his fucking
That's
arm.
exactly what Brett said.
Yep,
He said
right under his arm and fucking just smash him in the jaw.
He also said someone might grab his arm when he did it. So
Yep.
Yep. It worked well.
Good.
All right. So was the screw job necessary, Garrett?
It's more a question of like, could it have been avoided at all, or how could it have been avoided?
Exactly.
I think you have to go like way back to when WCW first called Brett and was like, "We'll give you $3 million a year," and Vince was like, "We'll give you $20 million," or like whatever it is for 20 years. Heavily backloaded, obviously.
Yep.
But at the same time, I don't think that would make much of a difference, because if he got the money and then Vince was like, well, it's Brett's fault because he's drove up prices for him. He's in huge demand, so I had to match them. They're my competitors. Like, yeah, you're in a business. That's what happens. If you can't match the price, you just say you can't match the price. You do what you have to do.
Unfortunately, you can't have that person in your company because you can't afford them.
Yeah.
Too bad.
But see, this is what I think. Like, I think that if Vince tried to, like, if he was going to re-sign Brett, he should have matched or been like, look, I can only give you like $2 million for like 50 more days a year, and also like $2 million 50 more days a year, and like I can't promise you the kind of money they do, but I will respect what you decide to do either way. And the way he ended that by saying, like, I respect what you decide to do either way. You can either go there, you'll have creative control over your last 30 days, but you can go there, or you can stay here for less money with more, you know. And I think that would have resonated a lot more with Brett, because as we've seen, Brett is a much more honorable dude. Yep. He might have taken the $500,000 a year pay cut with more days because he respected Vince a lot more at the time.
He could have also just told Brett, go. But if you're ever unhappy, you can always come back.
Yeah. I think that's the only way it could have been avoided. Events leading up to it just spiraled out of control, and they all started because of the contract fiasco. I think Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart having a feud kind of just added fuel to the fire. I don't think it was a main cause.
Okay. I say that if they had come up with a creative idea for him, and if WWE really wanted him to stay, which I don't think they wanted to, because I think they wanted to free up some money.
Yep.
They could have come up with an idea that would have worked. I think Shawn could have not been a shitlord and lost the belt. He could have beat, Brett could have beat Shawn in Montreal and then lost the title to him the next day in Ottawa.
Yep.
If they wanted to do that.
That's happened many times since then.
Shawn could have lost on like a fucking house show, and Brett would have lost it to him. So, and Brett didn't even need to show up that night. Brett could have fucked them over completely and just been like, no, pull the Goldberg. Yep. Sorry, it's I've gone over my dates. I think he went over his dates by like 40 dates or something ridiculous.
Yeah. So I've been over my dates. I'm not doing it.
However, to play devil's advocate, there was no guarantee that Brett wouldn't take the WWE title to WCW.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing I was going to say.
I don't think he would have.
I don't think he would have either, just based on the type of person he is.
No, I don't think he would have, but...
But, I mean, you can never guarantee that, right?
Bischoff, and this might have just been because of the whole screw job, Bischoff does announce the next night that they've signed Bret Hart.
Yep.
And he said he wasn't going to do that. So if Bret was still the champion when Nitro went on the air, and Nitro always went on early, Bret would have been the WWE champion leaving to WCW. So it's shitty.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, before the Goldberg kick and all that, it was win-win for everyone. Bret went to WCW.
Oh, yeah.
He made millions of dollars. Millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. Yeah.
Vince got to get rid of the heavy contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Became Mr. McMahon.
WCW got their man they wanted.
And it opened up a nice spot for rising mid-carders like The Rock and Austin and Mick
The
Foley.
Rock, Mick Foley.
And Shawn got to be the number one heel in the world. And Shawn, I'm looking forward to talking to this once we get to like WrestleMania 10, but like, if Shawn can keep going after WrestleMania 10, do we just have Austin keep feuding with DX? Instead of like a Dude Love? Like, it's amazing to think of what they could have done.
Yeah.
But they made their decisions.
Wait. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I was like, WrestleMania 10?
14.
I was like, that was 4 years.
If Austin time traveled back to the ladder match against Razor
Ramon, then yes, would have been feuding.
Yeah, okay.
Just cost him the title.
Yeah. They could have started it then. Okay, so that's the Montreal Screwjob, and that's Wrestling with Shadows. Garrett, anything else to add?
I was just gonna openly spitball about whether or not there's still heat between HBK and Bret, even though they said they buried the hatchet. I think there's always going to be. I don't think you can ever say that that's ever gonna go away.
I don't think they dislike each other as much.
I think they tolerate each other now.
And I think both of them have different philosophies on life where they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Shawn is born-again Christian, and hopefully he's a good born-again Christian.
Well, that's what it seems like, because remember when DX reformed, they wanted, like, Triple H still wanted to do all those, like, crazy segments, and Shawn was always just, like, you know, he played up the whole born-again Christian thing really well. And I think they did that mostly because he was uncomfortable with a lot of the things.
Shawn wasn't a dick about it, though, which I liked.
No, he wasn't. But like, the best
wander off, which I liked.
The best example I can think of is DX was banned from the building.
Yeah.
So they had a hot dog or a barbecue.
Yes.
And what ended up happening is like Shawn's like, we're all out of condiments, like blah blah blah, like, and then he just made a big show of leaving, and then Candice Michelle came over. And, like, Triple H was talking to her and then made, like, this big deal about how, like, he was having trouble focusing and was sweating and shit. And then as that went off the air, like, 2 girls came up from under the table and left. But Shawn had no part of that. Yeah. Which is way better because he kind of just played into it.
It's funny, yeah. And they'll cover Shawn's eyes when something indecent
is
happening.
Exactly.
Funny. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's tongue-in-cheek. He's funny about it.
And also, I like the new DX run almost more. My favorite DX moment will always be the one with the signs on the stage.
Yeah.
But I think one of my other favorite ones is when they impersonated the McMahons.
Oh, yeah.
And fucking Shawn came out as Shane O'Mac and was just, like, jumping all over the and Triple H just, like, stop it! And just, like, knocked him down. Oh, God, it's so good. But other than that, I think they're tolerating each other and
I don't think they want to hate each other anymore.
Yeah, well, for fuck's sake, that is literally 23 years ago now. Like,
and Bret's gotta hate Hulk Hogan and and who else does he? Oh, he doesn't like Triple H, and Triple H doesn't like him. So
sorry, not 23, 18.
That was a long time.
18 years ago.
So that's the Montreal Screwjob. That's Wrestling with Shadows. Hope everyone liked it. It was a little bit of a detour, but much shorter than our usual fare.
Yep.
You can catch us at tweenerwrestling@gmail.com. Or is it Tweener Wrestling Podcast? I probably should look that up. Looking it up. Tweener Wrestling Podcast @gmail.com, @Tweener Podcast on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. I'm thinking of doing some new things, Garrett. SoundCloud, all this fun stuff. So
good, let's do that.
Apple,
let's make it happen. We need to do more Twitter stuff. We're falling behind.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to get back on that shit.
Yep. Other than that,
I guess we'll play Bret Hart's theme today.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we should play Bret Hart's theme.
That's apropos.
Yep.
Because we don't hear it again until what, like
2010, January 6th, 2010.
Or except when Sean brings him out on Montreal.
Well, that doesn't count. We're not counting that. All right.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and catch us next time for episode 8.